Hello everybody, welcome to our last assignment for child development. I sort of struggled with what to go over for our last topic because we've missed so much and skipped so much information in child development that I think is important, and ultimately I just decided to go over reasons why children misbehave and then what are some positive guidance techniques that you can use so that we can raise happy, healthy, independent little citizens. So to start off with, we're going to remember that kids aren't born bad. All right, sometimes you hear like negative people saying, oh, they're just a bad kid. They're really not. Everybody reacts in a way to meet their needs. All right, so all of these reasons that we're going to go over for misbehavior is meeting some kind of need. And hopefully as we go over them, you can kind of think back about your own childhood or even things that you see with your friends on why people act the way they do. So first, it's normal behavior for the child's age. All right, all kids are going to pick their nose. Sometimes they even eat it. All right, some kids go through a biting stage. All right, does that mean that you just say, oh, it's their age? No, you still need to discipline it and stop that behavior because you don't want an 8th grader that goes to school and bites people. All right, but just know that some behaviors are because of how old they are. So you need to have expectations for their developmental age. Right? 2, they're naturally curious. So they're going to do things like unwind the whole roll of toilet paper, put their toys or their books in the toilet, stick things up their nose like Legos or crayons. When my oldest daughter was about 4, she kept saying, Mom, there's something in my ear. There's something in my ear. And this went on for a couple of weeks, but she wasn't sick or anything. But eventually, I took her to the doctor to see what the issue was. And so the doctor looked in her ear, and he started laughing, and he got the big long tweezer things, and he pulled out a bright pink bead. And I was like, Emily, why is there a bead in your ear? And she was like, I wanted to see where it would come out. All right, they're just naturally curious. So they're not being naughty on purpose. They're just trying to figure out the world. Number 3, they do not know any better. All right, they're trying things new, and they don't realize what the consequences are going to be. So things like sticking their fingers in a light socket, jumping on the bed or the couch, drawing on the wall. In their little mind, they think, you love the pictures I draw for you on paper. You're going to be amazed at this mural I put on your wall. They're not trying to be bad. They just didn't realize that we don't draw on the wall. Haircutting, giving themselves a haircut, or maybe the neighbor's kid a haircut is a big one, right? They don't realize that they are not a trained cosmetologist or barber and should not cut their own hair. But it happens all the time. Right, number 4 is to get attention. You see this one a lot with toddlers, and you bring home a new baby brother or baby sister. They start to act out and do things that they know they're not supposed to do because negative attention is still attention. All right, so if you're like busy with something and you're not paying attention to them, they're going to misbehave so that you at least pay attention to them. Number 5, to get power. Children want to have some control over their lives. Just the way you want to make your own decisions, so do little kids. So at some point, they might rebel so that they can assert that level of self-control. So when my second daughter was about 3 or 4, it was dinner time, and my husband poured her some milk. And she said, no, Dad, I want juice. And he said, no, we're going to have milk. And she said, but I want juice. And so they argued back and forth for a minute or two. And finally, my husband was fed up, and he said, you can have juice when that milk cup is empty. So she looked at him, dumped the milk on the floor, turned the cup back up and said, it's empty now. Now, did she get in trouble for that? Yes, she did, because that was super sassy, all right, and super messy. But what she was just trying to say, I just want juice, man. Stop telling me what I can and can't drink. All right, she still got disciplined for it, but it was because she felt like she didn't have any control in that situation. Right, for revenge. Now, I don't think we consciously think, I'm going to get you back, all right? And kids don't think that either. But when they feel hurt or they get angry, they are going to want to react in a way that gets revenge, that makes you feel hurt or makes you angry. Think about little kids on the playground in elementary school, all right? And how somebody hurt somebody's feelings, and then at the next recess, nobody will talk to that person, and they're all by themselves, sitting on the buddy bench, waiting for somebody to come and play with them. All right, it's because One person decided that that person needed to get even, and so that's what happened. Right? They feel inadequate or incapable. It is way easier to be a troublemaker than it is to admit that something is hard. All right, and so I want you to think about, like, let's say math class, because math class kind of is hard for a lot of people. And so sometimes in math class, you see like troublemaker kids. They try and like get the teacher mad. They do things to like pick on other kids because it's easier to say, I'm going to be a pest rather than admit I can't do this. Also, same thing with class clowns. Typically, a class clown kind of comes out of their shell because they don't want people to laugh at them because something's hard. So if I can get my peers to laugh at me over something I did, they're never going to know that I can't do these math problems. And that's a big one that kind of really comes out once they get to school. Right? Then the last one is everybody needs to feel like we belong. Right? So sometimes you act a certain way because you belong to your family, and so you act the way they want you to act. Sometimes when you come to school, you act a different way because that's how your peer group acts. Now, this can be a positive or a negative thing depending on which group you're trying to act like, but regardless of if it's positive or negative, that need is met, and so you act that certain way. So now that we've gone over the reasons why kids misbehave or get into trouble, we're going to talk about what do you do about it? How do you redirect that so that they can learn from that experience and act in a more appropriate manner? So first we're going to go over, though, the difference between punishment versus discipline. All right, they kind of like, when you say those words in your head, they have two different meanings, when in reality, the definition is the same. It's a penalty for wrongdoing. But typically, we sort of view punishment as severe. All right, it's long-lasting. It's kind of designed to hurt or humiliate whoever did something wrong. Discipline is about teaching. All right, so you're still giving out a penalty, but you're using that opportunity to teach them the proper way to behave or the appropriate way to behave. So first is redirection. And this is where you're going to substitute an unacceptable behavior for an acceptable one. Now, children up to 2 years old can easily be distracted to change their behavior. It's really easy to like switch the toy if they're fighting over a toy. You can turn on the TV, take them outside, and they'll kind of forget about what they were upset about or what they were doing that they shouldn't have been doing. Once they get a little bit older, it's kind of harder, but you can still adjust the environment to meet their individual personalities and needs. So if you redirect the behavior, then that can stop the bad behavior from happening. 2 is reverse attention. Ignore the negative behavior and choices and reinforce the positive. So I want you to think about when we used to come to school and somebody in class would say a bad word. All right, and what does everybody in the class do? They automatically look to the teacher. And sometimes the teacher ignores it because if you ignore that negative behavior, it usually just stops. All right, it's only if that behavior continues and continues, then that student or that child is trying to get your attention, that you then have to address it. All right, if you have a child that just keeps trying to get that negative attention, catch them doing positive things rather than getting after them for all of the bad things that they do. Number 3 is natural consequences. So a natural consequence occurs without interference. You just let the consequence happen. All right, it's not inflicted or given by the caregiver. All right, this is the best and most effective method of discipline because they're actually seeing the cause and effect of their behavior. So if you don't eat dinner, what's the natural consequence? You go hungry. If you leave your bike outside, what's the natural consequence? It could get stolen. If you don't do your school work, what's your natural consequence? You fail. All right, so you see how your behavior results in the consequence. Now, it can be really hard sometimes as a caregiver just to let this one go or let this one happen. All right, and you can't use this one if it's going to cause harm to themselves, others, or property. Like you can't say, oh, you want to go play in the road? Okay, natural consequences, you're going to get hit by a car. You can't do that one. All right, so if they're going to hurt themselves, don't use a natural consequence. All right, along with natural consequence, we have logical consequences. So this is a discipline given by the caregiver. All right, so if you fail your class, the natural consequence is the F for not doing your work, but then what kind of things are your parents going to do? They may take away your phone because you're on your phone more than you were doing your homework. If you miss curfew, then they might take the car keys away. So it's a logical consequence. And it's a good idea when your kids are older to allow them to input or help you decide on the discipline, because a lot of times the things that you think need to happen are way harsher than we would give you. All right, choices within limits. All right, so you're going to limit their options. Give them either or choices to help them narrow down. Do you want water or juice? Not what would you like to drink? All right, because then if they're like, I want Mountain Dew, you can't be like, no, you can't have Mountain Dew, but you ask them what do they want to drink. All right, so choices within limits. If it's December and your child wants to wear their swimsuit and you can't get them out of the swimsuit, then you need to give them choices. You can wear this outfit or this outfit. All right, that way they still have that sense of control because they're choosing, and you are saying that these are the guidelines you want them to wear, so they're not wearing their swimsuit in December. Yeah, you have to make sure that you're willing to live with the choices that you offer, though. All right, number 5, time out or time away. This is just a time to calm down. Now, don't put kids in time out for like 15 minutes. All right, it should be 1 minute for each year of the child's age. So if they're 2, they get 2 minutes of time out. If they come out of time out and they're still naughty, like they go over and they hit their friends, then they go back in time out for 2 minutes. All right, but don't make them sit there for 15. It doesn't do anything to have them sit there for longer than that. Number 6 is be consistent. All right, this is more important than how strict or how lenient you are. All right, it's just because they know what the rules are and they know what to expect. So if your curfew is always 11:30 on school nights, which is actually kind of late for school night, but it's always that, you don't have to worry about what time did they say I have to be home, because it's consistent. All right, people feel more secure when the rules are consistent. It eliminates arguing over expectations, and you can't forget the rule. So, consistent. Number 7, be an example. Model the expected behavior is an effective way to teach children their desired behavior. Okay, children will always follow what you do before they follow what you say. So if you say, don't swear, but then when you're driving down the interstate and somebody cuts you off and you let every word fly, are they going to swear? Yeah, they are, because you did it. All right, so remember that positive and negative behaviors are modeled, and so you need to be an example. 8 is encouragement. Acknowledge their good behavior. Right? If you can find one thing they did good or right, make sure you point that out so that you're not always just harping on them. All right, 9 is positive statements. Tell them what you want or need them to do versus what you do not want them to do. So instead of saying don't run in the house, you need to say please walk in the house. Okay, so turn it into a positive statement. All right, that's it for child development. Please go back to Canvas and answer the questions regarding behavior and discipline. I hope you all have an amazing summer break. To the seniors, go and create an amazing life. And everybody else, take child development again, because you totally did miss all of the cool stuff. I love you all. Bye.